Hamosaiden, and today I'll be discussing the mixed methods research design, also known as the MMRD. So, in this presentation, we'll talk about its definition, purpose, the different types of mixed methods, and the challenges that the researchers face, and of course, the conclusions that we will get from this discussion. So, take note that we often use the mixed method data whenever we feel like adding it to our methodologies, such as the whenever we see the opportunity to include a qualitative or quantitative data in our methodologies. But in this discussion, I hope that maybe we can learn from it how we should not just jump on um, applying the mixed method design research design as our methodology, because it requires a lot of thinking and yeah, a lot of thinking as to why and how and the purpose of using this research design subject or the mixed method design. So according to the authors in this section or passage, mixed method research is a standalone research methodology that integrates both the qualitative and quantitative method within a single study to provide a more comprehensive understanding of a research problem. So, it the authors emphasize how the MMR enabled the researchers to explore research questions or SOP with both qualitative and quantitative data, which in this case, it allows the researchers or the papers to do triangulation, complementarity, and the validation of the findings from all across data types. So, this could mean na yung sa triangulation, it could mean na yung research pwede siyang maging pwede siyang mag-gather ng data and then apply multiple method such as cross-examination and then to confirm results. This could lead to a great help in finding or in research. And then sa complementarity, ito yung a single method na it which explain or expand another finding of the research. And then of course the validation of findings. We can through this method we can validate another finding. Kunwari yung kung sa quantitative, that can be validated through qualitative findings. And then in simpler terms, this means that a researchers use both, or a researcher or a researchers can use both numerical data and a descriptive information in one study, a numerical data, or let's say a objective, a research that requires objectivity and at the same time subjectivity. So this approach helps overcome the limitation using one method, and this is the MMR or the mixed method research design. So the main purpose of this design is to gain a more complete understanding of the researchers or the research problem. It allows the researchers to validate their findings. Yun nga yung sinabi ko, parang yung triangulation, yung complementarity. So, whenever there is another result or a finding, we can always use MMR. Well, not always. Oftentimes, if it is the best choice, we can use the MMR or mixed method research design to fulfill or to validate that findings. And then it complement and extend insights about how qualitative data explains why and a quantitative data shows how much and as to what extent the study is or the finding is. And then also it addresses a social phenomena, a complex social phenomena that cannot be further captured by one method alone. So ito yung mga issues that are unlikely to be resolved by a single method. Yun yung parang quantitative lang or qualitative lang. Well, maybe we can get findings from quantitative only, but if pwede naman na i-incorporate yung qualitative data to get more refined and defined, clear, concise, and coherent findings, so why not use MMR? So overall, it is very useful. This kind of research design is very useful when dealing with complex social issues that cannot be fully explained by numbers or words alone. So there are several kinds of or types of MMR. But in this video, we will tackle the three main types or three most commonly used type of MMR that can be found in many studies. So these are the convergent parallel, the explanatory sequential, and exploratory sequential. Now going first to the convergent parallel mixed method design, this kind of design collects qualitative and quantitative data simultaneously and analyzes them independently. Meaning, these two data, the quantitative and qualitative, are analyzed independently, and later, when the results or the findings from each of the data are gathered, they are merged together to form a complete interpretation. So, by doing this, the data sets can be separate, or pwedeng after merging the findings, the interpretation can be checked if it formed a convergence or divergence, or that kung iisa ba yung result or expected result of the quantitative and qualitative data, or magkalayo ba sila ng sagot. Now, there are a lot of strength of this type of MMR because according to the authors was that provided this information, this this type of MMR provides triangulation. Yun nga yung it strengthens the validity or the validity of the findings, and then of course it is time efficient because both data are collected or drawn simultaneously. And then it offers a deep understanding of the issue and the data or the findings itself. And then the weaknesses are that it can be a quite difficult since the study is integrating a numerical and textual data, or a subjective and objective data na it can have a, especially on how it was done yung simultaneously, because it can have a effect, or it can affect some factors to the participants, and then it may complicate interpretation but later on. So the next one is, this example is from the Wadi 2019, which explores on the impact of the secondary education examination on English language on students and parents in Nepal. So basically, this research talks about how the English language examination affects the stress level and motivation of the students and parents in Nepal. Now, in this study, the Wadi used survey for quantitative data and interviews and scanning of diaries in qualitative data. What he did was that he first gave surveys to the students, and after gathering data, he then gave an or interview and then collected the diaries of the children. Now, this is how he did the convergence design, mixed method design. So the survey revealed a statistical patterns such as that the stress levels of the and motivation of the students were quite unexpected as unexpected to what the author wants to view. However, the results or the statistical pattern were then discussed and supported by the qualitative data findings of the author. So the interviews explained why these patterns existed by highlighting social pressure and parental expectations. So by merging both results, the study provided a complete picture of the exam's academic and emotional impacts. Next one is the other type of the MMR design, exploratory sequential design. In this type of design, instead of going first with the quantitative um, method or design of the study, the researchers usually go does the researchers do the qualitative data first, and after getting the data, they will analyze it, and the data that they will gather will be the basis of how they will make their quantitative data. That's the difference between the exploratory and the first design, which is the convergent parallel mixed method research design. So these findings are the findings of these studies are usually yun nga, yung arrangement niya is from qualitative or quantitative to quantitative data. The hard part of this design is that it takes a lot of time, since yun nga nauuna yung qualitative data, and then the findings has to be validated or has to be analyzed very well in order to get that perfect quantitative method na the author can apply to the participants. Example One example of this design is the study by Ivankova and Stick 2007, where the students aim to develop a self-management program for spinal cord injury patients. Now, what they did first was that they began with qualitative interviews to explore the patient's needs and challenges, and then they used those insights to design a survey and collect quantitative data from a larger sample to validate the program's effectiveness. So the design goes with qualitative first and then the quantitative followed. So on this part, the explanatory sequential design is quite the opposite of the exploratory. If the exploratory starts with the qualitative data, here the researcher or a researcher starts with the quantitative data. And after a deliberate analyzing of the findings of the quantitative method, he will now jump to the qualitative research design. Now, this can be quite the easy one among all the types of mixed method research design. However, this also takes a lot of time kasi nga, yun nga, you have to wait for the findings of the other design in order to draw out what you want to do in your qualitative research design. One example of this kind of research method or research design is this research by McKim, which he conducted in this study. He conducted the quantitative survey first to the graduate students, and then he measured their understanding of the topic, And then after analyzing the numbers and patterns, he followed up with the focus group interviews to understand why students has come up with that perceptions and understanding. So, by doing the qualitative design later or later in that part, it helped to explain and give meaning to the numerical or the numbers and patterns that was gathered first or discovered earlier. So the design goes with the quantitative first and then the qualitative part. Despite all those benefits and the advantage of using this research design, it also holds some challenges. First one is that it can be time and costly because data collection and its analysis are quite lengthy. And then second, it can be quite difficult to continue or to combine numerical and narrative data coherently. Thirdly, is that it's not always easy to choose the most appropriate design for a study, especially that you have to make sure that the design or yeah, the design that you chose or the method that you chose for the other design reflects or can or complements the other design. So, kunwari, your quantitative data complements with your qualitative data. Lastly, the researcher needs to be skilled in both qualitative and quantitative methods to ensure validity and legitimacy, of course. And then these challenges require careful planning and a solid understanding of research methods so that yun nga, hindi ka nahihirapan sa pag-gather ng data. So, so to conclude, Dewadi et al. 2021 highlighted that mixed method research design is extremely valuable for exploring complex social issues, and it provides more credible and holistic findings compared to single method studies. However, researchers or the future researchers, especially the beginners, must take note or take time to develop their methodological competence and plan to clearly overcome its challenges. So we have to make sure that when we are going to um, when we are going to explore or have a research that integrates a mixed method research design, we are very capable of doing it and that we have more knowledge or knowledgeable enough with the qualitative and quantitative methods and data and design itself. The mixed method research reminds us that numbers tells part tells apart the story, but a findings can the findings and the findings of the research tells the broader story of how it became an issue or how it became a part of the society. So I hope everyone learned in this video. Thank you very much for listening, and that's all.